You ready to go?
Sure.
Okay. I am admitting all.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. We're going to move through just a few housekeeping details. And we're starting out with the opportunities for minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses. So thank you so much for being here. So we're going to read through a disclaimer, and it says, the information provided in this webinar and any supplementary information provided to, let me change my view really quick, you guys. I'm sorry, it's over the, there we go. Okay, let's start again. So the information provided in this webinar and any supplementary materials provided to registrants are intended for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional, financial, or legal advice. No registrant should act or fail to act on the basis of any material contained on this webinar without obtaining proper financial, legal, or other professional advice specific to their situation. The Northern California Small Business Development Center and its hosts, the HSU Sponsored Programs Foundation, specifically disclaims any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence, directly or indirectly, of the use and application of any of the information presented in this webinar. So before I move into the presenters, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat, and we will leave some time at the end of this presentation to answer them. And at the end, you will also receive a link to all the slides after the presentation, as well as a link to our YouTube channel. So let's move into the presenters. Thank you, Brian, for switching that. My name is Ashley Tate. We have Bryan Rheem and then also Lonnie Lott. And just to give you a quick introduction of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk about the introduction of the Small Business Development Center, also known as the SBDC, available benefits for minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses, and then targeted funding opportunities that will help you in your business. And then we're going to talk about how the SBDC can help you specifically. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to go over a little bit about the SBDC, and I'm going to talk about the history, the facts and goals, testimonials, how we can help your business, the consulting services, and webinars and training. And I'm going to turn off my video while I do that. All right, so the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center is a nonprofit organization. We provide confidential, no-cost advisory, training, and services to small businesses. Next slide. And a little bit of introduction here. Before I move into this introduction, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history of the SBDC. And we've been around since 1979, officially enacting the network into law in 1980. We are comprised of a partnership between Congress, the SBA, the private sector, colleges, universities, and the state government. And in 2020, the SBDC celebrated its 40th anniversary. So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the NorCal SBDC specifically. And in our region, there are 36 counties. We've increased sales for our clients by over $193 million. Capital infusion, which includes loans and equity investments for our clients, with over $492 million. Next slide. So this is a quick testimony that I wanted to share for the SBDC in our local area by Mary's Pizza Shack, the owners of Mary's Pizza Shack. And they say, I spoke with the SBDC advisor, Joe, many times, and he has always been available to speak to me, very knowledgeable. And if he had a question he couldn't answer, he would find out and call me right back. I've been listening to all of the webinars, great information where I can ask questions and they can answer them. The staff was amazing and very helpful during the COVID-19, and I recommend the SBDC to a lot of friends. I feel that without Joe, this would have been a more difficult time for us. So for the SBDC, we offer one-on-one consulting, webinars and training, funding assistance, and we work in partnership with the Small Business Administration. So All of our consultants are available and provide expert advice at no cost to you. All of our consultants have a wide range of experience from the private sector. And the SBDC operates with many funding partners, including state, local, and federal governments. Next slide. Oh, next slide. Okay, so how can we help and how can you get started? If you would like to get started, you can contact Emily and just call the SBDC, and we can help you with things like how to start your business, disaster relief, loan updates, QuickBooks, desktop beginner series, and owning and investing in real estate for your small business, and much, much more. So we also help you with funding assistance by helping you stay up to date on the changing loans, filing guidance, business loan applications, investor packages, and crowdfunding campaigns. Now I'm going to pass this on to Lonnie, and she's going to help you on the benefits for your business.
Okay, thank you, Ashley, and welcome everyone. Glad to have you join us today for this robust webinar. We're covering a lot of territory, and I'm sure there'll be some questions, but do know that you will get this recording back on our YouTube channel, as well as a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to be covering some of the available benefits for minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses. I'm going to be venturing deep into the certifications that are out there. What are some of the advantages to getting certified? And then I'll be handing it over to Bryan, and he is going to go into everyone's favorite topic, funding, and finding what kind of opportunities may be out there for your type of business certification. Okay, so available benefits. There's two types. There's procurement preferences, which I'm going to talk about. That's supplier diversity programs. And then Bryan's going to talk about targeted funding, some geared towards those supplier diversity programs and others that address different areas. So I'd like to talk about why make inclusive supply chains a priority. And there's several different reasons. So first of all, the value added on the social responsibility. We've seen over the years, supplier diversity becoming in alignment with companies' corporate sustainability and social responsibility mandate. And that's a lot of words. And basically that is for a company who is wanting to do business with maybe veteran businesses or women-owned businesses, or let's say Black-owned business owners. They will make that a priority, and then they offer that diversity client who's been certified through that opportunities for their company to use them first, or to give them a percentage off, or like with Amazon, they guarantee that they'll be paid in a certain period of time. There's economic value. Diverse businesses typically encounter barriers that challenge their startup and sustainability efforts, such as access to capital and networking opportunities. So effective supplier diversity strategies can help with these pain points. And in their specific groups, they offer additional training, additional networking opportunities up and beyond than what may be just typical in the marketplace. Economic impact. It uplifts these communities where underserved businesses are located through job creation, increased wages, and tax revenue. For example, CVS Health reported that their 218 diverse spend contributed $5.5 billion to the US economy, and it sustained about 31,000 jobs. So their diversity or social responsibility policy, actually looking at doing business with one of those underserved, disadvantaged business groups, contributed that much to the economy. And then future growth. According to the Department of Commerce study, the growing minority population will account for as much as 70% of the total increase in purchasing power. So we want to support those minority groups, those diverse groups, and really look at them as a growing market, both for your clients as well as for them as business owners. So let's jump into, I'm going to change into my notes here because I want to make sure that I get it all right, because it can be kind of overwhelming with some of the terminology. So let's talk about some of the common terms, what you're going to hear as I'm talking and what you may see when you start to look at certifications. Diverse supplier in the broadest sense is a business owned and operated by an individual or group that is part of a traditional underserved or underrepresented group. And I'll go into what the top 4 are. So that's a diverse supplier. Your business fits in that group and you're supplying the products and services. Supplier diverse certification determines that the business is actually owned, managed, and controlled or controlled. Some require that it is controlled and some is or controlled by a qualifying diverse group. So the certification process can be somewhat robust. You need to meet certain criteria. And that's an area where we, as the Small Business Development Center business advisors, can help you walk through some of those steps. Procurement is the term or the process of purchasing goods and services, and is usually in reference to business spending. And then finally, there could be sole source purchasing, and that means it's one where there's only one vendor capable of providing an item or service, and therefore it's necessary to obtain, you don't need to obtain competitive bids. So what are some of the available benefits for the procurement preferences? The first one I want to talk about is the federal government, the supplier diversity programs. And right at the top of the list is the Small Business Administration, SBA program as it's known. And then you have links that will come back to you with the PowerPoint that you can link right onto these. I checked them just the other day, and then it'll take you right to that page where you can read more about it. So the SBA 8 program is for small businesses who are interested in government contracting. Getting an SBA 8A program can help improve the chances of winning a bid. To qualify, your firm must be 51% controlled by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals, which includes women, minorities, and veterans. The disadvantaged businesses in the 8A program can compete for set-aside and sole source contracts in the program. You can get a business opportunity specialist to help navigate federal contracting, because it can be kind of overwhelming. Can form joint ventures with established businesses through the SBA's Mentor Protégé program. And then you can receive management and technical assistance, including business training, consulting, marketing assistant, and high-level executive development. So there's really a lot of training and resources that go around that, as well as giving you a little bit more competitive edge on the federal contracting platform. Now, in order to do business with the government, you need to have a Duns and Bradstreet, or we call it DUNS number. And it's a unique 9-digit identifier for your business. This number is assigned using Dun & Bradstreet patented process and identifies a company as being unique with any other of the Dun & Bradstreet data cloud. The DUNS number is used as a starting point for any company, and it doesn't cost anything to get. You do have to go through the application process. There's a lot of pages. Sometimes it kicks it back. Once again, as business advisors, if you get stuck, that's something that we at the SBDC can assist with. So you're often going to see, anytime you're going to be doing any kind of government contracts, or you're looking at a government site and there's an opportunity to submit a bid or a proposal, it's going to ask for your DUNS number. The second thing that it asks for is that you're registered with SAM, or the System of Award Management, and it's SAM. Everybody refers to it as SAM. And this is the official site of the US government, the sam.gov, and there's no cost to use SAM, and you need to have it and you need to register so that you can get paid. So you have to have a DUNS number, and then you can apply for your SAM to be, be approved with SAM. And then that way, when you are awarded the proposal or the bid or the grant, then you can get paid. Okay. And then the next area of supplier diversity under the federal government is the Veterans Administration, VA.gov. VET's first verification program falls under VA.gov, and it affords verified firms that are owned and controlled by veterans and service disabled veterans the opportunity to compete for VA set-asides. Okay, so that's the federal government side of the supplier diversity programs. You know, we could probably just spend 2 hours going just down deep into the SBA 8 program, but I don't have time today on this webinar, so we're going to jump into the next area, which are the private certifications or registrations. And there are 4 top that I'm going to talk about. The first one is the National LGBT Chamber, and they offer through their organization the LGBT Owned Business Enterprise certification. So if you fall within that specific group, this is an opportunity for you to look at becoming an LGBT owned certification. The requirement for that is just top level is 51% owned, operated, managed, and it says and controlled by an LGBT person or persons. So you have to fall into that group, at that either own it, operate that business. Now you determine in the certification process, you answer the questions to see if you meet the criteria. Most of them also, you need to be a US citizen or, have one person in your business that is. So I'm not going to go into that because each one is different and you can read about that on these sites. So the NCLCC offers a certification, the National Chamber offers a certification, as well as host of opportunities to enhance an LGBT's business visibility to corporations seeking to do business with this specific group suppliers. So remember back when I was saying, why is this important to be looked at as a supplier diversity certification, is that there are a lot of corporations, a lot of businesses that want to support a specific group. And so this helps and brings you up to that level. Corporations can search for certified LGBTBE suppliers through their exclusive supplier database, as well as meet face-to-face with potential suppliers. The Chamber has some matchmaking events, which are held across the country. And then certified suppliers can be eligible for scholarship programs, mentorships, leadership training, and other business development tools to help your business grow. So that is for LGBT owned business enterprise certification. The next one I want to talk about is the National Minority Supplier Development Council. There's a lot of words there, right? And there is the NMSDC, the abbreviations for calling that. And this is 51% of have to be owned, managed, or controlled by the specific group. And you're in a unique position to promote and market your services to prospective corporate buyers who are looking to build relationships with minority-owned businesses. If your company wants to connect with private sector buyers, your certification is considered the Platinum standard in supplier diversity and can improve your financial performances. Some of the benefits that come through the certification and what the council, the NMSD Council offers, they've created capital access opportunities for minority business enterprises throughout the life cycle of their partnership with various funds and capital manager programs. They have contract opportunities that facilitate connections between the buying agencies and the minority business enterprises. And then they have customized executive education. Specifically, it's called the NMSDC Academy and other concentrated training and technical assistance. So if you're a minority owned business and you think you want to look at this certification, then you would go to the council's website and read through the process and possibly start the certification. The next private registration or certification is the National Veterans Business Development Council. Again, you have to be 50% ownership by a veteran. And this certification provides the assurance to corporate partners that the veteran suppliers that they've intended to contract with have gone through the rigorous vetting process, and that corporate partners will provide access to a database of certified service, disability, veteran-owned businesses. So again, the certification has different layers of criteria that you need to, either meet the standards, and then you get that certification. It just doesn't happen because you say you're a veteran-owned business. They want, to ensure that you're truly a veteran, and that you have the type of criteria that's needed to have that certification. And then the final one is the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. And they look at, they're the largest certifier of women-owned businesses in the USA and a leading advocate of women entrepreneurs. To apply for this certification and have it be awarded, you have to be 51% owned, controlled, operated, and managed by a woman or women. So again, you have to be a woman. Through certification, women-owned businesses gain access to a vast network of support, including targeted business opportunities for women, certified women-owned firms, increased visibility in corporate and government supply chains, education and development programs to spur growth, and opportunities of thousands of women entrepreneurs to network and look at to maybe possibly become a mentor for or to mentor with. The Women's Council is also approved the third-party certifier for the SBA's Women-Owned Small Business Federal Contracting Program. So there is another program to look at. Okay, I know you're totally confused at this point. What's the difference between SBA 8 programs and private registrations? And I'm just going to show you from the business side what this might look like from the procurement preference side. So now we're switching gears. We're not looking at you as a minority or women-owned or veteran-owned business that falls into one of those groups and getting this certification as a supplier. What does that mean for me? We're looking at how the businesses see it and the available benefits. And this just scratches the surface of the types of registration benefits that are out there with these corporations. And I chose ones that we kind of resonate with, kind of names that we know because they're the big, maybe they're, national, and they buy a lot of products and they have a lot of buyers that are coming to their sites. And the first one is the Google Supplier Diversity. And Google is designed to connect, this diversity is designed to connect more with minority, women, LGBT, disability, and veteran-owned businesses, the opportunities to do business with Google, to do business within Google. Once registered, you receive, among other benefits, a listing in Google's diverse supplier database. If you're selected to work with them, and this is the best part, folks, Google will do their best to pay you within 15 days of invoice approval. So you get the certification as, let's say, a woman-owned business, and then you go to Google and you say you want to be on their diversity list, and you fill out some forms, and then when they encourage everyone within their corporation who does business in Google and are buying from businesses to look at their diversity policy first. If you click on that little link when you get home, and it'll pop up as a video, and it just kind of talks about and interviews an actual business that has that diversity certification and the value they found with Google. Disney supplier diversity is developing and is leading a world-class supplier diversity process that articulates the value of a robust supplier diversity process, enables diversity suppliers to compete for sourcing opportunities, and facilitates a healthy fact-based dialogue between Disney and external interest groups. Again, Disney does a lot of business with other businesses. So if that's one that might be of interest to you. Costco, their mission statement: in order to represent a diverse supplier base, Costco is committed to providing opportunities for qualified local, minority-owned, and women-owned suppliers in communities where they do business when possible. And then the last one is Amazon. And Amazon, I didn't start at the top, but Amazon is kind of like, there's a lot on Amazon. Amazon Business connects sellers with diverse certification to buyers with diversity spend goals. So if you're a seller and you have a certification in one of the diversity supplier groups, then Amazon's websites are set up that then when people are going to spend or buy through Amazon, through the business portal, those businesses that have been identified will pop up as high priority. They recognize certifications not only from the national, but in various states. And I'm just going to stop real quick here and change to my my website so I can show you really quick, because I have one ready to go. I did. Let me find it here. Okay, come on. There we go. And this is, it's actually in your PowerPoint, and I pulled it up. It's part of the Amazon Business Overview, which you can then go in and look, and they'll talk about how to, link your diversity certification, your business, if you have that diversity supplier certification, to their site. But I wanted to just kind of give you an idea here, looking really quickly, who they recognize as of April 21st, the following state, national, state, quality, and federal representations and certifications that are supported through Amazon. You can see they even look at HUD zone, disadvantaged businesses, then they get down into some quality aerospace, environmental, food quality, and then they get down into specific state diversity certification. So if you're doing business in other states, you can see if that they honor any of those state, and the ones we have in California are right here. The small business, the disabled veteran business enterprise, LA County has a few. And then you can just go all the way down to all the states and look, and then they actually have Section 889 for federal representation. And on their regular site, which is also one of your links there, they you can download the entire list so you can really look at it. So that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what supplier diversity certification is and what that gives you as having that certification, gone through that process. And then where are those opportunities? And I think that brings me to you, Bryan.
All right, thank you, Lonnie, for all of that. There's been some questions in the chat, and I know David is answering them. But again, a reminder, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and you will be getting a copy of this recording and the slide deck as well once we're done. All right, we're going to talk about funding. So obviously, as a minority-owned, woman-owned, veteran-owned business, you have access to all the traditional funding that is available for small businesses. However, you also have access to grants and resources specific to your specific situation. So we're going to dive into that. Whenever you're looking for any type of grant, especially if it's a federal grant, you need to be going to grants.gov. If it's not listed on grants.gov, then probably it's a scam. But grants.gov is a great resource. It kind of has all the information for federal grants, and there's a lot of money stored in there. So that should be one of your first stops if you're looking for some funding. And again, for those of, I don't want to assume everyone knows, but with a grant, traditionally, there's a grant award and there's no requirement for repayment, unlike a loan. However, some grants do come with criteria as well as demonstration of how those funds were used. So obviously, the focus should be, hey, we want grant money first, and that should be kind of the priority in which you look for capital infusion. So we have grants.gov, and we also have the National Association for the Self-Employed, the NASC, and that one you do have to join as a member. But some statistics, the NASC has been around, and since 2006, they've awarded over $1 billion to members through growth grant programs. And so they're looking to help grow small businesses. The one thing you do have to know is grants are extremely competitive. And so obviously, because everyone's kind of vying for them, and not all grants are just exclusively grants. Sometimes they come as a combination of a grant and a contract. But the NAAC, it's member specific. And so if you do choose to join that, you have access to the growth grants that the program provides. Something that is always exciting to me personally is what's called the SBIR and the STTIR, the Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Transfer. And not all of them are grants, like I just said, some of them are contracts, but they are really looking to stimulate innovation, technology growth, especially in rural areas. So if you're a small business in a rural area, they have their focus on you. They're looking to really bring small business innovation and technology to rural areas. They love to use small businesses to meet federal funding, federal needs. So a lot of the federal R&D, research and development projects, they love granting those to small businesses. And again, they're really looking to promote business within social and economically disadvantaged small rural areas. So if you're a small business in an area that would be deemed social or economically disadvantaged, there's a great opportunity there, as well as women-owned businesses, 51% owned and controlled by women. Again, these are more focused on technological innovation, but anything to do with technology and creative innovation, if that's your space, you really want to look into the SBIR and the STTR. All right, next slide. Here we have the STEP. That's the Trade Expansion Program. And again, that's government grants focused on small business export development. So if you're a company that produces goods and you're interested in expanding your sales market beyond the borders, there's some great grants that help you and some great case studies. If you look up the STP and testimonials of how people have really increased their revenue by expanding beyond their borders through a straight trade expansion program grant. So you'll find a lot of these grants are industry specific. And so not all of them, unfortunately, will apply to you. But if you're in the industry, you want to take advantage of these opportunities. We have the NIST, which is really businesses focused in the technology industry, IT, and their government grants. You have grants focused with Department of Education. That DOE usually tends to be private nonprofit. And then you have grants with the EPA. The EPA has spent over $4 billion focused on the health of US residents. So if you're doing anything with air quality, climate change, helping transportation with pollution, things like that, EPA is a great opportunity there. All right, next slide. We have the, for women veterans, there's a WVTP, there's a USDA that's really focused on the ag industry, but also creating businesses within agricultural communities. And then we have tribal energy development, and that's specifically for First Nations, any small businesses focusing on, developing energy resources for First Nation areas. One of the programs, it's not really a grant, but it's an agency, is the Minority Business Development Agency. If you have not looked into that resource, please go check them out. They are focused on helping small businesses that are minority owned, women owned, navigate the grant loan process. So they themselves aren't a grant, but they're definitely a great resource. Again, another First Nations Development Institute grant, specifically, exclusively for First Nation tribes and Native Americans. You have an Asian Woman Circle Giving grant. So if you're Asian and you're a woman, they're really highlighting programs and opportunities. It's not just artists, although they started out focusing on artists, but they're really looking at projects that enrich community. And then we have the FedEx Small Business Grant Contest. And this is an annual contest that FedEx puts on. It's really, really big and really, really popular. The first place prize gets $50,000. The second place prize, $30,000. And then they have 9 third place prize winners for $15,000. And, check that out. It's really neat. They're really trying to promote innovation and problem solving. And that's just annual awards that they give out once a year. Next slide. All right, we have the Amber Grants, and they're for women-owned businesses, and they have monthly and annual and industry-specific grants. Again, super competitive. You have the EDA, and that's for any small business focused on developing economy and economic development in communities. And then you have private foundation grants. These aren't usually public, but they exist. And again, being able to search for something online is going to give you a tremendous amount of opportunity, because not only can you search for private foundation grants, but you can look at local grants. So grants that are specific to your city, your county, your state. They are, again, aren't published on a national scale, but you can contact your local SBDC office, and we tend to be aware of what's happening in your specific region. And finally, unsolicited proposals. Sometimes reaching out to a company that is in your space, a larger company, a larger organization, an industry leader, sometimes funding is available. Partnering with small businesses is always seen as a good thing. And then, as well as to be inclusive, partnering with minority, veteran, women-owned business is a priority as well. So sometimes you don't know until you ask. And so reaching out and doing the research can sometimes lead to opportunities. Next slide. Let's talk specifically about some loans, funding through loans. These are ones that the SBA recommends, specific for minority targeted loans. We have Fundbox, and that is a pretty quick process, and they give funding up to $150,000. Credibility Capital, that's bank funded loans. You can see the amount there. And then Blue Vine, lines of credit up to $250,000. So great loan opportunities with some flexible tiers based on your credit score. You can see Blue Vine, they tend to focus on supplying lines of credit for unpaid customer invoices, but they also have traditional funding loans as well. You have the Business Consortium Fund for National Minority Small Business Development Center. And those are loans for minority-owned business, as well as the SBDC Inclusivity Project. And that's focused on Black-owned businesses, specifically trying to get 1,000 Black-owned businesses funded. Next slide. We want to talk about some specific SBA funding resources. So the SBA itself has a community advantage loan. And that's really focused on, if you're a small business in an underserved market, SBA has its attention focused on you. And so it's a pilot loan program looking to really stimulate economic development and small business economic activity in underserved markets. SBA has microloans, so that's smaller amounts, up to $50,000. To help small businesses and childcare centers either start up or expand. So microloan is going to be a much smaller amount, but it might be just what you need to put a down payment on a new facility or to hire additional help so that you can expand your operation. And then EIDL, EIDL, they just changed the terms on this recently, and they're in the process of rolling this out. Now the borrow amount is up to $2 million with really, really favorable terms. If you look at that, we're looking at a 30-year fixed at a interest rate of 3.75%, or if you're a nonprofit, 2.75% with a 2-year payment deferment. Interest will still accrue, but those are some very, very favorable terms. Now you don't have to go up to 2 million, obviously. You might need a smaller amount, but the Economic Impact Disaster Recovery Loan, the EIDL loan, is a great option. I believe they've continuing to discover money in certain places, and they want to definitely make that available to businesses, especially small businesses that have been negatively impacted because of the pandemic. But it's not just limited to those situations. For more information, if you go back 1 second, for more information regarding the SBA, you can go to that link. Again, you don't have to write that down. You'll have this deck, and they're great. It's a great resource for you to search on loans specific for small businesses. All right. Next slide. Ashley, you're on mute.
I'm glad I was on mute for that. I interrupted you. Okay, so how can the SBDC help you? As I said earlier, we work with you for registrations and certifications, applications. All of these things that they just talked about in this webinar are things that we can help you with if you need help through the SBDC. And we'll give you advice and suggestions, trainings. We also work with the women's business centers and language translation services. So there's really nothing that we cannot help you do. I know that's a big ask for all of you advisors. So did I mess you up, Bryan?
Nope.
Okay, all right. So I'm still on this SBDC, how can we help you? Registrations and certifications. We help you discover what programs you qualify for, guide you through that registration process, provide feedback on your applications, continue to point you to different opportunities, and then provide various minority, women, and veteran certifications to assist procurement, training, and entrepreneurship activities. And as far as applications, we help and give feedback on your application preparation, suggestions on opportunities for you to pursue specifically to your business. And then, of course, advice and suggestions, training, and then Procurement Technical Assistance Center, PTAC. Bryan, I'm going to let you take that part over because I think no.
Well, I mean,
I feel like I took over your slides.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, we wanted you to close it out.
Okay.
Since there are only a few slides left, but
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're doing fine. I think
Okay.
the PTAC, as with the WBC, they're all partners with us, and with the SBA to help small businesses with certification and funding opportunities. Okay.
And you can go to the next slide, Lonnie. Thank you, Bryan.
I was just going to say about the Women's Business Center that's located in Shasta County.
Yes.
We at the SBDC only can work with for-profit businesses, but the Women's Business Center, they can also assist with some nonprofits. So I just thought that might be of value.
Yeah.
There we are.
All right. Are there any questions that weren't answered by David in the chat? Or any questions anyone has that you'd like to ask now? You can come off mute and ask.
So David, did you want to talk? Did you want to let us know, or do you want us to read through the questions? There's one here that says, does the business have to be a supply company or can it be a service provider business? I'm assuming, Christine, you're talking about getting a certification. No, you don't have to be just a supply company. You're as a service, as a business that provides service, yes, you can get certified with that being a service-based business. And if I'm wrong, Bryan or Ashley, chime in.
No, that's right. You can be a supply.
Okay.
You don't just have to be a supply. You can be service.
We had a couple questions about DUNS, and I see David said, just beware that DUNS number is free, but then they try to hook you in and pay for their services. So unless you see value in that, you don't have to get your DUNS number. And I think too that, Bryan, that the EIDL now is also covering if the counties were declared by the federal government as fire disaster areas, they're able to look at the EIDL for the disaster loan. Is that true?
I would really recommend, it's to reach out to the SBDC or to the SBA regarding the EIDL, because I think they've broadened the availability. And so I would definitely not limit yourself and say, well, I wasn't negatively impacted by the pandemic. It doesn't matter. They've kind of stretched the requirements to increase the net so that more businesses can take advantage of that opportunity.
And when the federal government declared disaster areas for a lot of the counties in Northern California, those are EIDL loans that are made available to them. So yeah, you're right. It looks like Pastor Ann has her hand up. You can unmute yourself. There you go.
Thank you. I had a question. So we're also realtors, and we're a small boutique real estate company. We have two realtors, my husband and myself. We're both brokers and we own it. My husband is a Vietnam vet. I am a minority and Black owned. So, or Black 50-50. And what I'm hearing is when you apply for certain certifications that it should be 51%, at least 51% owned. Which type or which designation or class would be advantageous for us? Now, we're not looking for loans. We're looking for, in the beginning, I heard that you can get on a preferred list or be considered amongst, your peers to kind of move you to the top of the list. So I'm wondering what would be advantageous for our business?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you, Pastor Ann, for that. I would look those links that I provided. I would go on there and look at what some of the requirements might be and see how you fit within those requirements. And I think you can get both certifications.
Yeah, on a lot of them, in fact, most of them, they'll require, for instance, if you're going to have a minority certification, you have to be 51% owned by the minority, and there's also the requirement that you do substantially all of the management of the company. It's not just like, oh, you know, I can make somebody 51% and then they don't have to have anything to do with it. You have to, you need to certify that you're actually very active in the management of the business. So it's going to vary from opportunity to opportunity, but generally speaking, they will want you to be actively managing with that.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So who or how, I guess I would need to sort of speak with someone to actually sort of pull that out, because, you know, I find myself doing a lot of the management administration, and then my husband doing the advertising, and things like that. So
Are you a sole proprietor?
We are.
Okay. Do you file your taxes as together as a sole proprietor?
Yes.
That way? Okay. Then there may be some considerations for that. So yeah, definitely ask about that, because then the 51% test might be looked at differently.
Okay. Okay. So should I sit down with a counselor?
Yeah, sit down with an SBDC counselor, sit down with, and you know, you're going to want to identify which opportunity, and then look at the requirements for each one.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
And I'll just add, a lot of what you pursue is based off of what you are interested in doing, because some of these opportunities, whether it's, you know, pursuing 8A or just being a GSA service provider, they're focused on specific industries and certain things, opportunities. And so that would be, you know, you're asking, is it better for me to be woman-owned or minority-owned or veteran-owned? I think you have to look at what opportunities you're looking to explore, what your business is, and what's going to get the most traction. So there is a little bit of researching, and that you're not, it's not like you take off your minority hat and you become a woman. You're a woman, a minority, you know,
right.
And as a sole proprietor veteran, so you don't have to trade one for the other, but you want to pursue the opportunities that are going to give you the biggest return on your investment. And so obviously that has a lot to do with it as well.
Correct. Thank you very much.
Okay. David, do we have any other in there that?
Well, let's see. Child care. Yes, you can apply for a DUNS number as child care. Mm-hmm. There are WBCs in Sacramento and Kentucky. There's WBCs everywhere, just like there's SBDCs everywhere. But quite frankly, there's more SBDCs, which means we're better. I'm kidding. That was a joke. And let's see, what else did we have? Gee whiz, I hope I'm not missing anybody. If I am.
I know there's been a couple questions about the slides and the PowerPoint, and yes, everyone will be receiving those who registered on this webinar today, as well as can access it at our YouTube channel, right?
Right. EIDL, EIDL stands for Economic Injury Disaster.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we answered most of them.
Okay. Great. Then I'll go to the last slide for you, Ashley, or what our next steps, what their next steps may be.
Okay. So your next. Sorry, David.
That's all right. I'm just going to interrupt here rudely, and I just put in a link in the slide. This is a link to a survey. Yes. We'd appreciate if you'd fill out the survey, tell us how wonderful we are, tell us how terrible we are. We can take it. We all have really thick skin, and we get, you know, bandied around and beaten on a daily basis anyway. So tell us how we can improve, though, and what other topics you might like to see. But please do fill that out, and we appreciate you being here. All right, I'll shut up. It's all yours.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you all for being here today. So the follow-up and your next steps for you are to sign up with your local SBDC. But if you are in Shasta, Trinity County, please go to our website, which we'll have listed for you, probably in your email. And you can talk to Emily directly, and she will set you up with an advisor specific to what you're needing. So here are some of our websites that you can click on once you have the slides in your inbox. Excuse me. Okay.
So I think there's a hand up. Is that your hand up, Pastor Ann? Or?
Oh, I think it's just, I think she lifted up.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to put my hand down. I'm doing that right now. Sorry.
No problem.
And I did want to add just that if you're not located in Shasta or Trinity County, which is our territory for the Shasta-Cascade Small Business Development Center, that on our slide here, Ashley's included the contact, the email there, that if you link on that, you can find one SBDC in your county, state, United States. There's one close to you somewhere, and you can contact them and tell them that you participated in this webinar and they said that the SBDC can help. So there is one, and most of the SBDCs offer the same type of no cost one-on-one consulting and training opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think next slide, Lonnie.
Yep.
All right. And that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope you got some really good information. And again, we know it was a lot of information, so please feel free to contact our office for any questions. All right.